Hi Capricorn, welcome to August 2020. This is your astrology and tarot for the month ahead. So, Capricorn, there is of course a lot going on with your first house. We have Saturn there, we have Pluto there, we have Jupiter there, and a lot of them are coming into a point of contact with Mars this month in Aries, which is your fourth house. That is quite tense. Because Saturn in particular is your ruler, a lot of this is to do with who you are as a person. And the pressure that's being put on you is you now versus who you used to be. And to an extent, who you're bringing forward every single time. You know, when your life changes in some way, you begin a new chapter, you end an old chapter, you try something new. A lot of the considerations in August is what you're bringing forward. So what version of yourself you're bringing forward. And in particular, the first house, fourth house, it's quite hard to say, the first house, fourth house square is a lot to do with your childhood. And even if it's not your childhood specifically, you know, it could be the parenting style you had from your parents as a young child. Different things could be cropping up there in some way, and you're realizing to what extent you meet the world with an expectation, and that expectation is coming from little Capricorn. So a lot of this is to do with figuring out what your expectations are of the world, of others, in particular of yourself, and where you think they might be coming from. It's actually a very good month to really work through and reframe those kind of self-expectations, and where you are very hard on yourself, and where you feel a little bit like your identity in the last few years has been challenged to the point of despair in some way. Something that's very close to who you are as a person, something you associate yourself with. Likelihood Capricorn with the eclipses has possibly been shadowed in some way, has possibly been eclipsed out, and you're kind of reframing who you are. Now it's very broad when it's the first house because it's something that identifies who you are. So I think for a lot of you it's to do with family, I think for a lot of you it's to do with home, and I think for many of you it goes quite far back. Actually, it is an opportunity to heal and share some feelings. One of the things that came up with your cards, actually, Capricorn, is that there was this feeling, because I've shuffled all the cards off screen to make you a little pile from many decks rather than just shuffling on screen and dropping everything. The cards that came up for you were kind of specific in a story. So for a lot of you, and there's great success cards coming up as well, so don't get too bought up on the worrying side of things. This isn't to worry you, this is just to work through your own energy. With the tarantula card, I feel that a lot of you are playing dead in some way. Because when I think of the tarantula card, I think of a spider. And you know when you see a spider and it's completely still, and you don't know if it's dead or alive, and then it starts to move, and there's life in it, but it's just sometimes quite hard to tell. For you, Capricorn, I feel that there is a lot going on for you beneath the surface in terms of a concern that you're maybe not sharing outwardly. You're maybe trying to handle everything yourself. You're maybe trying to suppress certain feelings because it's just easier that way. It's just easier to get on with things. And it feels a little bit like the more you do that in August, the more pressure you feel, the more you feel worried or concerned about it. So the cards that came up here were attachment, 10 of Wands, 10 of Swords, and the 9 of Swords, as well as the Storm Warning. So kind of group these together as a sense, because you know storms are about pressure. I feel that with the attachment card, you're bringing something forward that's no longer serving you in terms of a belief. You know, in terms of a self-belief in particular. I think a lot of you Capricorns from a young age, and I see this with Capricorns as people, it's generally a lot to do with your childhood, where you had to self-assure yourself, or you had to do a lot of adult work as a child, you know, like chores or responsibilities that were beyond your years. Capricorns rarely seem to have a childhood without responsibility of an adult in some way. It's that Saturn aspect. So I think for a lot of you, you have learned in some way, and this could be true if you're a Capricorn moon as well, you have learned in some way to take a lot of your problems inward and deal with them on your own, or not deal with them on your own, just not deal with them. You know, just power through. As long as it's practical, as long as it can see tangible results, you can power through it. But when it's emotional Capricorn, sometimes you bury stuff. Sometimes if you can't see how to fix it on the outside, a lot of the time you just bury it on the inside and feel that if you make your achievements greater, which is where the 10 of Wands come in, if you work harder, you can surpass just about anything. But a lot of the world we perceive is mirrored back at us. It's that theory that everything is you pushed out. So a lot of the times, if you're carrying forward this unhealthy attachment of burying feelings, not talking about certain things, you can become distrustful. I think a lot of you could have, you know, either a partner or a parent, or it could be you or a friend or someone who's very distrustful of the world. This is kind of the way this is coming up. Someone who's very distrustful, someone who doesn't see the best in the world, see the best in people. And I think it's coming across as something that's quite draining for you. It's kind of like that Elvis Presley song, Suspicious Minds. Someone in your life that's very suspicious. But nevertheless, with this kind of energy, Capricorn, and the full moon in your second house, in tension with your sector of love and your sector of fun, you're starting to see in some ways where you have been overcompensating to fix this feeling that, you know, maybe you have to shadow all these burdens on your own, that you have to succeed in a certain way. Now, one of the things that is coming up very clearly for you is a form of success, though, because we had the Emperor and the King of Wands and the Temperance card. So I think for a lot of you, if I just move Temperance for a second, with the Emperor and the King of Wands, you're very focused on some seriously lofty goals and you're very dedicated to them. I think with the King of Wands and the Emperor, there always is this feeling of, I can make it happen. But also with some of your other cards, there's kind of this feeling of, I can't believe I made that happen. You know? Very strong achievements, and particularly as we lead up to Libra season in September, October time, which I can't believe is next month. You will start to see a lot of movement in terms of your career, but that same level of pressure is going to come up. And it's going to come up in a way that you have to be ready to go forward with it, almost as a clean slate. You know, you're going through this period of real self-analysis or self-awareness in a way, and you're getting a glimpse of where certain things are really coming from, you know, where certain things are shaping you in many ways. And one of the wonderful ways that it's shaping you, Capricorn, is with the Awakening card and the Sorceress card. A new way of being, integration. You're becoming much more aware of, let's see if you can see that, much more aware of your own personal power and your own personal magic, which I think is really nice, because I think with Saturn being in your sign, well, returning back to your sign after being in Aquarius, you could do with a little bit of magic. You could do with a healthy dose of that, you know. A lot of the stuff that's quite positive for you though this month, Capricorn, is to do with Venus moving into your opposite sign of Cancer. And this puts a lot of emphasis on your partnerships, on your love life, of your connections one-on-one with a person. You know, it sits across you. And at the moment, with Venus sitting across from you, looking right at you, it's asking you things, in a sense, in astrology. You know, it's asking you, what do you want from love? What do you want from one-on-one connections? What do you want from partnership? And with it not being so harmonious with Mars in your fourth house, pushing you to be self-aware, pushing you to be, you know, for Capricorns, because you are the sign that's most associated with elders, to have Mars pushing against you in your 4th house of childhood, you really are probably going to be quite frustrated with that in a sense, because it is asking you to look backwards. And sometimes in looking backwards we see some clues that we missed, and in doing that sometimes we see opportunities that we missed because we weren't in the right place, we weren't in the right mind frame, and that can be frustrating to you more than anybody else. But I see for a lot of you as well, with the life purpose card, the camel and contract, a lot of you are going through a moment of alignment with your life purpose. And I think a lot of you want something more than what you're doing. I think a lot of you are discovering what it is, but I do feel that you're going through that very strong sense of purpose, that strong sense of who am I, what do I want to put into the world, and what do I want to be remembered for. Because I think a lot of you have some big ambitions, and for many of you it could be to do with the law, with the contract card here, but for others of you I feel that you're signing a contract or starting a job or meeting a friend or beginning a relationship with somebody who is part of your life purpose. Because I also see that with the 2 of Swords and the Balance card, where you've been feeling quite indecisive about what you should do next. I think that August is sort of aligning you in those energies of, I understand what I have to do, and I understand this feeling and I like it, so I'm going to lean into it a little bit. With the Balance card, the Temperance energy, you could for sure be dealing with a Sagittarius person, but with the cooperation and compromise part of this and the perfect timing aspect of this, there really is no need to push something that is meant to be. And that is how you know that you're going to be aligning with it or not. If it starts to flow in August, let it flow. If it doesn't, just be patient with it, because there is an element of timing at play for you. And the stars at least really want to pull you in a little bit to revisit certain memories, to see what it is that you are using as a coping strategy. Because with the camel is known for reserving its water in its hump. You know, it has that elixir to tap into when it needs to. It has that ability to take very long journeys because it's set up to do so. And you're like that too, you know, you're always set up to heal and self-soothe yourself on this journey. But there is some stuff coming up for you, Capricorn, that I think you really have to acknowledge. Something that you really have to accept, that these moments in August where you feel like things are crumbling, or you feel like you're crumbling, you're just restructuring, you're just beginning again. And I think for a lot of you, you're clinging too hard onto whatever it is that has disappointed you so much on your own, you know, because it's okay to be disappointed and it's okay to be upset, but you can't take that all on yourself. There's people in your life that want to support you, and there's people in your life that want to help you in some way. And with the 10 of Wands and the 10 of Swords, whatever it is that has left you feeling very upset can't really be ignored anymore. Otherwise, a storm is going to brew. But what's beautiful about this too, with the King of Wands and the Emperor, is that you, Capricorn, are indeed moving on up in the world anyway. You can move on up in the world and still have a little eye on your past and see where certain things need to be fixed. Certain things need to be reparented. Certain things need to be looked at, because August does present to you those kinds of challenges. And it's interesting that Mars in Aries is represented by the Emperor and the King of Wands actually, but the Emperor in particular. These energies with Mars came up with the Balance card, which is Temperance, which is healing, you know, finding that middle ground. And with Venus being in Cancer, especially in terms of your relationships, it is a time for that compromise, because Venus in Cancer is obviously going to go up against Saturn and Pluto and everything in your sign as well, and it's going to really want to restructure and reorganize your relationship world. But with Jupiter there, the Jupiter-Venus opposition that's going to come up, there's actually a lot to be said with manifestations, especially in love. You know, with Venus being in Cancer, you could meet someone that you could really commit to. You could meet somebody that you want to go the distance with. You could meet somebody who is your opposite, and that it balances you. See? Because that's what balance is all about. But I think for a lot of you, there's healthy powers of manifestation here, because you are awakening up to some stuff that you no longer want to carry forward, you can no longer ignore, as it were. And for a lot of you, you're starting to see the hidden meaning behind things, which is nice. I think for many of you, Capricorn, with Leo season being your 8th house, which is quite intense and quite intimate, you're really getting to grips with how you truly relate and how vulnerable you can be with other people. And I think for some of you, it's a bit of a wake-up call, to be honest. I think for some of you, you're realizing just how much you have suppressed certain parts of your personality so as not to disturb or annoy, or so as not to appear as weak, or so not to appear as uninspired even. And a lot of it is coming because that's just the way that you were brought up. But I think a lot of you are realizing that in your current relationships, or in the relationships that you want to manifest, you do want something different. And for those of you that are in established marriages and relationships, there could be a few rocky moments with this, but it's only because you have to be aware of where you're projecting, or where someone else is projecting certain fears or hurts, or where you've maybe made choices based on, as I say, little Capricorn and what you knew. And I think a lot of you are having this change of direction in terms of where you want to go with your life, because there's always a point, in particular with Saturn returns, there's always a point where people reevaluate where they're going in life and why they made certain choices, why they went down a certain path. And oftentimes with Saturn, it is that parent. And I think for many of you with the Emperor, it's the father. I think a lot of you have a bit of healing to do with the father. This month can be very healing if you don't get in your own way. I think for a lot of you with the 4th house square, there is also a few challenges in terms of the home coming up. With the family, there could be points of tension, there could be trouble with contracts, there could be trouble with, because I think the contract card came up. If something's funny with a contract in your home, you're being redirected, or there is a meaning behind it, is one thing that's coming up. So do keep your eye on anything that seems to be challenging, Capricorn, because a lot of it is redirecting you to your life purpose. That's just the point of August. It's a big moment of redirection, particularly with the nodes. The nodes are connecting with Venus in your sector of work. So a lot of your day-to-day routine, with a lot of nodal activity there, this conjunction is going to want to reshape you on your work path. You know, it's going to want to restructure your day-to-day life. There is a lot of changes happening, but you're more than capable. Obviously, there is a little bit of witchery involved, needing to be a bit more making inspired action, inspired changes that are coming from a place of belief and faith. You're really tapping into those. But in terms of work, in terms of your purpose, Capricorn, I feel that a lot of you are either finding your purpose or have found your purpose. And I think for many of you, it is actually, as your life purpose will in life, you know, when you go pursuing something you really want, or you feel in alignment with something you really want, I do think that you start healing in a way that is sometimes quite hard. When people, you know, when people pursue music, for example, and you start writing songs, or you are acting, or you are becoming a doctor, or whatever it is, I do think, Capricorn, that when it's your purpose, it can drudge up a lot of childhood emotions. And you channel them in a way, and it's very healing and cathartic for you, which is why people want to follow their life purpose, because they want to be as true to themselves as they can be. And in being true to yourself, oftentimes you have to acknowledge every little part, even the shadow. So I wish you all the success in the world in August, Capricorn, and I will see you in the extended link below if you want to join me there, and if not, I will see you in the next set of readings. Bye.